this game on Saturday, I watched the entire game. I was invested in this game, and it was an entertaining game. And I'm going to take us to one play, and then I'm going to let you spout off on what went wrong, because this Arkansas team, this Arkansas offense, racked up almost 700 yards of total offense. They were clicking. There were running lanes for our guy, Jaquindon Jackson, and Taylon Green knew when to take off, but he was also throwing darts. He tends to sail the throws, though, but I was impressed with his receivers. Not just one of them. It seemed like everybody was able to elevate and pull out some tough catches that sailed on Taylon Green. But, okay, there was a play in this game. Arkansas is up 14-0. Taylon Green gets flush from the pocket. He reverses field. He's dodging defensive linemen, and he sprints all the way to the left sideline. And your number 5 receiver, I can't think of his name, holds up his hand. Broden. Taylon Green throws a dart. Beautiful throw, running the other direction. This dude impressed me. So I think there's a future there. So I had my doubts about Taylon Green. But anyway, especially it looks bad when you're calling for the ball and then it was a perfect dart to him. It would have been 21-0. And I think it's not necessarily game, set, match, but boy, that's a huge. And then one play later, 2 plays later, pick 6 the other way, and all of a sudden it's 14-7.
Yeah. Yeah, and I typically rewatch the games. I start on Sunday, and then what I don't finish, I wrap up sometime Monday. And if I should, because I got my Monday after show, which will be later today. Yeah, that play was I don't know, Mark. It was there's something about that drop pass. It was on the money. It was on the money. What an athletic throw. What awareness there that he had. And I was pretty critical of him in the post game. I said when the pocket collapses, he does have a tendency to kind of panic a little bit, and but on that play, it just felt like he was completely in control. He rolls out to his left, and and by the way, he did something similar in the final, I think it was the final scrimmage back in spring, where he hit Centennia down the left side, down the sidelines. Beautiful throw. And it was almost identical. Just the receivers, I think, ran different routes there, but just from Taylon Green's perspective, very similar. He is capable. And I remember watching that play going, oh my, okay, there might be something here with this guy. And then he kind of follows that up a little bit and throughout spring and fall camp. Well, that was obviously the last time we got to see him in spring after that scrimmage. But then in the fall, he looked mostly spot on. And not that you saw a lot of that necessarily, but he always looked like he was just on the same page with the rest of the offense, with Bobby Petrino. And you just knew the athleticism was there, and that play was fantastic. Had Broden caught the ball. Now I'm at that point now this morning where my memory's fuzzy on some of the game, but that felt like you could, no matter what you want to say about the second half and how Arkansas completely crapped their britches in the second half, you go back to that play, and it's like, what changes if Broden comes down with that? Now, on Broden's part, Mark, I don't know that I saw him drop maybe but one ball through fall camp. And he looked fantastic. In fact, I had Mason Choate. He and I would talk at practice, and I had him on, not much at practice, but I had him on not long ago before the season started, and I talked about Broden. And, we both kind of, I think there was an agreement by most media that were there. Broden could have a special year. I mean, he just looked good. Him and Green, again, same page. They looked to be in sync along with Armstrong, even though he was dealing with some hamstring issues throughout fall camp. He missed a whole week, and then came back, looked fine. Centennia looked fine. Tesla had a couple really nice grabs in camp. But to see that happen, that's why we always say if what we see in camp translates onto the field, such and such will happen, right? Well, it didn't translate onto the field for Broden for that moment. And I think I could be wrong about this. I think that's his second drop on the year. I'm not sure on the amount of targets, but that just can't happen. You can't drop that. You have to catch that. We're probably sitting here talking about a different outcome. I do think, and listen, Oklahoma State fans, I had friends that went to that game. They were like, these are the nicest people I've ever dealt with. And I'm talking about friends of mine who have traveled. They'll tell you that their own Hog fans down in Little Rock are toxic. Fayetteville, man, I sat next to these obnoxious Hog fans. Man, I went to Tennessee. Man, I went here or there. I mean, these guys travel. They go to a lot of games. And they were like, these are the nicest people. Most of the comments, nice people. I had a Oklahoma State fan super chatting me. You can go back and watch it. He gave me like $10. Now, we were kind of having fun back and forth, and I was definitely, making some jokes at Oklahoma State's expense. But for the most part, in some of the comments they've left behind on that postgame chat, they're very kind. However, and I don't want to offend anybody, okay, but Arkansas, this was more about Arkansas losing this game than it was Oklahoma State winning. You go, and it's not to say that Oklahoma State didn't make great second half adjustments. They did. They played far better in the second half than they did in the first half. But Arkansas did everything they needed to do. They clamped down on Ollie Gordon. They were shutting Oklahoma State out. In fact, their first points on the board was the pick six that you mentioned. It just nothing really went their way in the second half until the bottom of the fourth quarter. I don't know if you saw that when the officials completely bungled.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Like Arkansas has handed something there and they still couldn't, they just couldn't pull their heads out of their rears. Very, I don't know. I want to say it's a mismanagement. I don't know if Sam, he says he lets his coordinators do what they're supposed to do. Man, that felt like something we've seen the last 2 years where they just, I don't know. Like they don't know how to play with a lead. They don't know how to do it, which is strange because in 2021, they certainly knew how to play with a lead. Since then, it's been a bit challenging. And you can go back to 22 when they had the wins over Cincinnati, South Carolina, and then when Bobby Petrino came in with Missouri State, they almost gave two of three of those games away. Sam just doesn't, I don't know, his game management just turns to crap when they have a lead. And I don't understand it. It's not always been the case, but here lately it has been, more than not. And I heard a number. It was something like Arkansas's lost 10 out of 12 games decided by 7 points or less. In the last, whatever it is, 2.5 years, maybe longer. There's something going on here. And, there is one common denominator. You've had all these changes. You got a whole bunch of new guys on the 53 new players on the roster or whatever it is, new staff on the offense. But the common denominator is your head coach is still your head coach. Why are you not winning these games? This game should never have been in a situation where what happened in the bottom of the fourth quarter happened. Arkansas had complete control of this game until they didn't. And again, Oklahoma State, major credit to them. Winning it at their place is not easy to do. Not many teams have done it. Gundy is a really good coach. I've got a lot of respect for him. He finds ways to win games. They've lost some head scratchers, but you got to give them credit. But again, for me, and you could say I'm biased, whatever, but I watched that game. It felt to me, if that were anybody else, I don't care if that were the 49ers. Anyone who knows me, I hate the 49ers. I would say, based on what I saw, well, that was more about the Niners losing it than it was the opponent winning it. Although I also know you could say, well, the winner is the winner. I get that argument, but I don't know, man. Go back and watch that second half and then watch the first half, and you tell me, for anyone in chat or who's watching this later, your thoughts. Because I don't know. It was you talk about a tale of two halves. I just but it's nothing new for Arkansas. It's nothing new, at least not lately.
Well, I totally get what you're talking about. Assessing a game and saying, okay, did these two teams play extremely well? Both teams were just razor sharp. We could think of some of the greatest classic games of all time, especially in the NFL, where even the loser, you just got to throw up your hands and say, well, they were great. Just the other team made one more play. Those games are rare in football. Most games are lost. And yes, I think that this game is more about, now, of course, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, then it's all about your team, of course. But taking it from a neutral position of just watching a good football game, and I definitely wanted to watch this game, and I watched it start to, ironically, I watched every play until overtime, and then I didn't see the overtime. But anyway, yes, this to me was Arkansas blowing the game, and Oklahoma State certainly made the plays that were presented to them to make. And they went out and made plays as well. They took the game as well to a certain extent, but there were also plays kind of gifted to them. Of course, a muffed punt, fumbles that were not caused by hits necessarily. Yeah.
Well, even Green's pick, and again, I need to go back and watch it.
It was underthrown.
Did he get – so the pocket collapsed, and he probably should have just taken the sack. That was my initial thought.
That could be true as well.
I need to go back and rewatch
but the receiver was running a short crossing route, and he was wide open, and Green just threw it way behind him.
And he missed a wheel route too. He missed a wheel route later in the game that was like a give me, and that's what we were told about Green, that's probably going to happen based on what all went on at Boise State, that he could have games like what he did against UNLV, but then he's still going to have those moments where he's going to miss open receivers. He's going to underthrow. He's going to throw into an interception. I don't remember reading much about the case of the fumbles, but some of that, I think, bad snaps. Oh my goodness. It was like everything that could go wrong all kind of happened, at the same time in this game. And, but it's not to say that the players don't bear some responsibility. And I definitely stirred the pot on Saturday when I said, coaches need to take the blame here too. And I still stand by that. But the players need to execute on the field. There's absolutely truth in that, of course. But the coaches, they certainly, you got to have your guys prepared. And coming out in the second half the way they did, oh my, did they make any adjustments? Like, what did they just say? Let's go out and sell? I certainly don't think so. We're fine, guys. We've got this. I don't think that was being said, but it just felt like, same thing that we've seen over and over again watching Arkansas, just not finding a way to hang on to leads. And you definitely, the way this thing started, you wondered, are they going to blow Oklahoma State out? Is this going to be a blowout? And then, of course, the pick six happens, but they do respond. And that's the one thing I will give them credit. This thing did get to overtime. Arkansas did respond. And that's at least a good thing. That's a good sign. They didn't just, well, it's over. Oklahoma State took the lead. It's over. They didn't bow down. They didn't back out. They weren't afraid of Oklahoma State at all. They just when they needed the plays, after all the mistakes they made, it did kind of feel like too little too late to some extent, at least in overtime. However, both teams, you missed field goals in overtime, but then Oklahoma State was able to get the points in double overtime to win the game. Arkansas couldn't respond. So you feel pretty good if they just take away a couple of mistakes. But that's the game of football, right? A lot of teams could say that. The winner is still the winner no matter what.
I did a post-game recap on it and basically said to open, there are teams that figure out ways to win games, and there are teams that figure out ways to lose games. And this shouldn't be a surprise because this was Arkansas last year.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back to 2022 to see how it played out the year before when they went 7-6. But last year, if you ask the average college football fan, that they just think Arkansas was awful last year. But no, they were legitimately in games against really good teams and found ways to lose games. Oklahoma State, they had a horrible defense last year and they found ways to win games. And so they continue
Yeah.
to do that. So I never thought Arkansas was going to run away from this because I thought, no, Oklahoma State's at home. They're a battle-tested team. But Arkansas physically looked like the much better team, especially, of course, in the first half into the third quarter. But even when they were losing control of the game, it's not like Oklahoma State started battering them up front with Ollie Gordon. He didn't do anything the whole game. His touchdown run in overtime, that was his longest run of the day. You're talking about the guy that is arguably the best running back in the nation, and Arkansas held him, checked him for 49 yards.
Yeah.
37 in regulation.
Yeah. One double-digit run the whole game, 1 12-yard run that resulted in the touchdown, 2.9 yards per carry. And I don't want to continue. Like, I know I'm definitely known as the Big 12 hater here, but I'm not. It's that I just, again, want the conference to be better. And Ollie Gordon is supposed to be he's the cover guy, right? Like, if you're talking about the best of the best running backs, he's the guy that you're going to slap on the cover out of the Big 12. And don't get me wrong, I think Arkansas's front four, their starting front four, they're pretty good. I mean, they're going to be probably top 5, top 6 in the SEC, with the possibility of who knows where Landon Jackson goes, who, by the way, graded out really good on PFF against the run, not so much against the pass, but nobody does against Oklahoma State because that offensive line, pass protection wise, is fantastic. I mean, that's definitely something they've got going for them. But I mean, Ollie Gordon was not a factor in this game, which goes back to what I said. He's not a Heisman. He's not. I wouldn't put him as a first-team All-American. Maybe third, if you're one of these magazines that goes all the way to 4, which at this point it's like participation trophy. But I'd probably put him somewhere between third and fourth-team All-American. He's a top 6 back in the country, top 8. I'm kind of sliding him down a little bit, but he's not shown much this year through 2 games. Now they're about to get into the Big 12 schedule and things will change for them, but Arkansas did what was necessary to win this game. They just it's just typical what Arkansas fans have seen for the last 2 years. And this is why, Mark, Sam is on the hot seat, because of games and moments like what we saw on Saturday. I'm not saying that he should be fired right now. I'm not saying that, but this is why he's on the hot seat. So, and now you've got, this was supposed to be your cushion game. I say cushion. It's supposed to be the game you go back and you go, well, they won that one. When you face that, you've got Auburn, A&M, and Tennessee coming up. Boy, things are going to get really testy if now you go 0 for 3 in those games. Because especially, you would already, but now even more so because you lost this one the way that you did. So, I don't know. Buckle up, Hog fans. This is going to get really interesting.
Yeah, there were, as you mentioned, coaching blunders in that game. I wouldn't be able to go through them right now. I recognized them at the time, but they should have had more time on the field goal drive that tied the game at the end. They blew a lot of time there. And, elsewhere in the game. So
there is one thing I will say, and I don't know, and I need to get follow-up on the rule, and maybe you would know this, but after Bowman, Oklahoma State's quarterback, got hit with the taunting penalty.
Yes.
Arkansas used a timeout, and I'm not sure why. And I need to go back and watch that, how that played out. But the refs were certainly like that freezes time there.
Yeah.
Which typically you don't see, even if the clock continues to move or not. You have time now to kind of recoup with your team while the refs are over there doing their thing, figuring out what the penalty is, and then calling the penalty. Why did they use a timeout?
It almost serves as like a basketball 30-second timeout or even longer.
It does.
Yeah.
So then why did they use a timeout, right? That's what I don't understand. Why did they need the timeout there?
So you would consider that to be one blunder. Not necessarily a blunder. You would just like an explanation of why they needed a timeout when they had extra time.
Yeah.
I just know that there was a sequence when they were coming down where they eventually got the field goal.
Yeah.
It would have been difficult to get the ball all the way into the end zone with the amount of time. But there was one sequence in there where they ended up spiking the ball, but they took like 12 or 14 seconds to spike the ball.
Man goes in motion. He sent someone in motion on that. I'm pretty sure he sent someone in motion. And I'm like, wait, what? Just spike the ball. Again, I'll go back and rewatch. Maybe I saw that wrong. There's just things like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's a reflection of the head coach, Mark. And if he gets fired, we're going to go back to moments like Saturday. We're going to go back to that. We're going to go, well, there's your sign. There it is. And if that happened once, okay, had Oklahoma State just come out and just beat you, right? And the stat sheet wasn't so, lopsided like it is. That's one thing. It's still not good, but sometimes it really is how you lose games. And that's what Arkansas fans have seen time and time again. Now, Mizzou last year, they just went up and down the field on you. They just beat the crap out of you. You were worn down. You were injured, banged up. Mizzou was on fire. They were playing great football. That's understandable. That's going to happen. They were really that good last year. But you have moments like this. Mississippi State losing 7-0. I don't know.
I see a lot of comments in the chat of basically, oh, this is all sour grapes, eat crow. And I understand that. There's a winner, there's a loser. There weren't any necessarily bad calls. Like you could say, okay, we would have won the game, but the ref made a horrible call at the end of the game. It's nothing like that. Oklahoma State won the game. We're not taking a win away from Oklahoma State or giving Arkansas a win.
Yeah.
But yes, this wasn't the Missouri game last year. This was when one team racks up 672 yards of total offense, or 647, something like that. The other team's at 385. That tells you there's a line of scrimmage difference. That tells you that one team either just had Tom Brady at quarterback, or they had a line of scrimmage difference, or both. And yeah, I would say that Taylon Green was the better quarterback than Alan Bowman. Alan Bowman, he showed me what he is all the time. I don't know why they trust him. This was a bad sequence. Arkansas pins Oklahoma State down to the 1-yard line, and they just let Alan Bowman just come out firing. And I'm like, he's supposed to have one of the best backs in the nation, and he's like fluttering up like ducks all over the place. Anyway, he's not a good quarterback.
No.
But I don't want to disparage the guy as a person. I don't know anything about him otherwise, but as a quarterback in major college football, he's on the bottom half.
Yeah.
So Taylon Green played much better, but he made his mistakes. But he played much better. Just he's a better runner, thrower of the football, everything involved. But the line of scrimmage, Arkansas won the line of scrimmage. They had the better offensive line. They had the better defensive line. Or you don't rack up almost 300 more yards of total offense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Oklahoma State, 5 of 16 on third down. Arkansas, 11 of 19. They were 0 for 2 on fourth. Oklahoma State was 50% there. That's like I think that's the one category that's not points that they actually were better than Arkansas at. But 232 rushing yards for Arkansas, 59 for Oklahoma State. No, Oklahoma State got dominated. So on the stat sheet, they got dominated. They just took advantage, and that's what winning teams do.
Yeah,
take advantage.
You recover muff punts, you recover fumbles. But if I guarantee you, so Wet Blanket's down here. He's an Oklahoma State fan, so he's biased, of course. And they won the game. That's all that matters. I get it, but it doesn't really project well for your team if you're getting outrushed 230-50. Like, you lose that game 95% of the time. So if that continues forward, Oklahoma State's going to lose to good teams. And Arkansas, if they can clean up mistakes, they might be a better factor and a better team in the SEC than we anticipated. This is what drives me crazy here. Like, we're not trying to take away your win. You're fine. Oklahoma State won the game. Give them all the credit in the world for taking advantage of Arkansas's blunders, but Oklahoma State also made plays. Absolutely, they did. In the past game, Bowman threw for 326, so he did make some good throws. But if we took this route in terms of evaluating these games and just said, oh, so-and-so won, we don't have anything else to talk about. Well, we wouldn't have these shows. You understand, we have these shows to discuss the games. You wouldn't even watch the games. You would just check the score online, and then that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
So
and there's the final score, which I agree. And that's
all that matters.
That is all that matters. Oklahoma State won. If this were me, and if this, let's again flip the score over and Arkansas won in the same fashion, I would say the same thing. Arkansas, won the game, but it was more about Oklahoma State losing the game. Anyone who's followed me long enough knows I will call that out. I will certainly call that out and not be afraid to.
That's all that matters. But you evaluate your team and you evaluate the two teams.
Right.
Arkansas just beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 70-0. Now, I guarantee you that Arkansas fans would feel differently, and rightfully so, and you would as well, and you'd have a different evaluation of your team if Arkansas went out against an FCS team and won that game 42-40. Would we all just be sitting here saying a win's a win? It doesn't matter? No, we'd be saying, what in the hell's wrong with this team? They beat an FCS team by that much.
Yeah.
Wow, they're hurting, they're in trouble. No, it matters the evaluation of the performance.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think anything that we said here is that controversial. I don't know if you could take a bias cap off, and I know I'm going to be accused of being biased. I don't really care. But again, like I've said it before, if the shoe were on the other foot and Arkansas won the way that Oklahoma State won, like I said, I would say, no, you're right. Arkansas, they lost because they lost, but ultimately we won because we made the plays when it mattered in the second half. On the stat sheet, Arkansas dominated us. I think they were probably the better team. All you got to do is scratch a couple of mistakes. But again, that is the game of football. And that's why we watch it.
You can't make mistakes.
Yeah. There's a lot that Arkansas should probably, again, if they clean some of this stuff up, Mark, this could be a pretty surprising year. But I mean, again, my reservations, and I'm at that point. It is that Sam Pittman is the head coach, that for the last 2+ years, we've kind of seen this movie before. Now we're not even in a trilogy anymore. We're going into the fourth movie. Please stop making these movies, Mark. They're awful. It's woke garbage. No, I'm just kidding. It's not woke, but that is the common dislike of modern movies.
From what I hear, I would be in that category as well, but I don't know. I can't say that from firsthand knowledge because I don't watch.
Stay away from Star Wars. Stay away from Marvel. But no, I do think that if they clean stuff up, the narrative will change. It will change, and like you said, they blew out UAPB. Okay, they're air. It might as well have just been air. But we've also seen some teams we thought really highly of, or at least better than, and they barely beat some pretty bad teams week 1 and week 2. So I guarantee you those teams are having conversations right now. Their content creators like you and I are saying things like, oh boy, what's going on? You look at South Carolina week 1 and look at them. They're 2-0 now. Look at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's 2-0, but they've got a test coming up this week. So their content creators are doing their thing. That's what they get paid to do. That's what we get paid to do, to break these games down and talk about them. And the assessment that you and I, sounds like we're on the same page. The assessment we're coming away with is Oklahoma State just made the right plays at the right time. They took advantage of Arkansas's mistakes, and that's how you win these games. And that's all that matters. But Arkansas certainly lost this game, in my opinion, more so than Oklahoma State won it. You don't even have to look that far. You don't even have to. I mean, you should watch the game. You should always watch the game, but you look at the stat sheet. But again, that's when numbers become irrelevant unless they're telling the final story. So again, grats to Oklahoma State. I'm going to be real with you. I don't know what it would look like if Arkansas was in the Big 12 and they had the schedule that Oklahoma State had, but I certainly think it would be better than what they are with their with the SEC schedule they have coming up. But good luck to Oklahoma State the rest of the year. They might be a playoff team. I don't know. Based on what I saw on Saturday, I would say, oh boy, I probably wouldn't put them in the playoffs. But it is Coach Gundy, a guy I have a lot of respect for. I like him a lot. He finds ways to do more with less. I don't know if there's anybody in the country that, that does what he does in the capacity that he does it, and whatever I have to say about the Big 12 is what it is. He's still finding ways to win games. And that's a sign of a good coach and a good staff.
All right, Ty, before we let you go, what is the schedule this week? I failed to look at Arkansas' schedule.
Well, they got UAB coming up.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So
they just got blasted by somebody.
Yeah, they lost. That's the other thing I got to do. I've got to find a way to get access to that game. But yeah, after UAB, the pressure cooker is turned on, man. It's at Auburn. Yeah, A&M. Like, you're not back in Fayetteville until October 5th, which is just, again, after UAB. So, but you don't get a quality opponent in Fayetteville until October 5th. And then after that, you get a bye week, and then it's LSU at Mississippi State, and then, Ole Miss, Texas, Louisiana Tech, and Mizzou. But it's after UAB, it's on like Donkey Kong, like, and I don't mean to overlook UAB, but again, I think
they lost to Louisiana 32-6.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I just need to find access to the game, but it's gonna be family weekend, by the way, for Hog fans. If you're going on September 14th.
Well, Ty, we appreciate you being here. We want to let everyone know that you can check out Ty's work there at Tusk Talk with Ty, and I put up the banner as soon as I can find it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I got way too many banners. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you being here, Ty, as always. There it is. Tusk Talk with Ty. It's right here on YouTube, of course.
Hey.
And Ty, thanks for stopping by. I wanted to get your perspective on this game because, again, I invested my afternoon in watching Arkansas football, and it was entertaining, if nothing else.
At least there's that, right? At least it was entertaining. It may not have gone the way Hog fans wanted, but we'll see how this year unfolds. And again, I'm not saying fire Sam right now. There are signs of life with this team on both sides of the ball. We'll just see if they can tighten up those mistakes. I think it's where we're at with that. Let's tighten those down a little bit. Let's see less of those.
Yes.
So,
both by the players and by the coaches.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, Ty. Appreciate
you around. Absolutely.